Today we're going through my round 23 AFL tips and predictions, and in this video there'll also be a punishment featured where I bought a heap of prime and gave it away at the footy, so stay tuned for that. It'll be shown a little bit later in this video. Let's start off with round 22, and I scored a total of 6 out of 9, so a bit of an improvement from the week before. The first game I tipped the Cats to win it by 8 points, and I got the margin right, so just needed to reverse the team. The thing is, if I would have tipped Collingwood, I probably would have still stuck with the 8-point margin. But yeah, unfortunately didn't get that one correct. The next game, Essendon v North Melbourne, I tipped the Bombers. Wasn't 100% convinced. I thought they'd get the job done, but I wasn't convinced with them winning it big, and they didn't. They only just scraped over the line by 9. Swans v Gold Coast. Now, this was one I was going to probably change last minute, but I don't really like changing tips last minute because, you know, there's always that odd chance that the upset does stick. And you just feel really crap about yourself if you go for the upset originally and then you change it. I didn't change it and the upset didn't happen. The Suns, although competed for a good half of footy, but the Swans just a bit too strong at the SCG. Brisbane v Adelaide at the Gabba. This was also another good game. Too bad I didn't really get to watch much of it because the Matildas were on and just because I was out and about. The Lions got the job done by 6, but the Crows arguably could have won that game with a lot of the chance they had late. And then the next game, I was pretty happy with my tip. The Blues, I thought that they'd get the win and continue their winning streak, and they have. And then obviously the Freo Dockers got the win, but I did not expect a 101-point win at all. I thought West Coast had been a bit better lately and would have competed a bit more. That wasn't the case. And on the Sunday, this is a perfect Sunday for footy for the Saints. Honestly, every result that I wanted to happen did happen. I know I tipped the Dogs, but I didn't think the Hawks would get another win on the trot. The Saints got the good win over the Tigers at Marvel Stadium. We pretty much played 4 full quarters of footy, so very impressed with that win, which keeps our finals chances alive. And then the Power getting the job done pretty convincingly against the Giants. Now, if I do end up getting 3 or less big calls, the punishment for this week is actually quite significant, and I have set a date for myself to actually do the punishment, so we'll see if I've got to do it. Now, the first one in Collingwood v Geelong, I thought that Pies would go goalless in any quarter. A poor one at that because the Pies scored 3 as their lowest goal amount in any quarter in a high-scoring affair. North Melbourne v Essendon. I said North Melbourne's Nick Larkey would kick the most goals on the ground, and that was a good one to get. Whilst I was at the game, I didn't even realise he kicked 5, and that was the most on the ground. Sydney v Gold Coast. I said that the Gold Coast Suns would lead for 70% or more of the game. Early on, I was looking all right. I think they were certainly in front for the majority of that first half, but it crumbled away after that. The Lions v Adelaide game, I said that Lachie Neale would record 35 or more disposals, a bad one to get because he didn't really have his greatest game, only recording the 23. Carlton v Melbourne, another pretty poor one. I said that both sides would score 90 or more points, but it was a bit of a wet game. It was a scrap. It was a crap, honestly, first half, especially scoring. Yeah, the final scores were 60 to 56, so I was very far off with that one. And then West Coast v Freo, you might think that I'd be a bit further off with this one. I said that the Eagles would be up at quarter time, but the Eagles actually led 14-0 remarkably. And then after that, conceded the next 17 in a row. 4 of that conceded in that first, so I didn't get the correct big call there. Still needing 2 to get correct. We head to the Sunday games, and in Hawthorn v the Western Bulldogs, I said there'd be 5 more lead changes in the first half. The Dogs were the better side in the first half, and, well, they led pretty much for the entire first half. And then for St Kilda v Richmond, to keep my big call chances alive, I said that Max King would score 5 or more goals, and a very good one to get. He kicked 6. Now, for the Port v Giants game, I said that the Power would lead by 35 or more points at any stage, and that certainly was the case. They were up. Well, they won the game by 51, so 3 out of 9, which means I avoid the punishment, which was Geordie's, and that was actually to live stream an AFL game in the library. I was actually going to do the Carlton v Gold Coast game, but it honestly saves me from the stress and just the hassle of actually getting it done. So it's not to say that it might never happen again. I actually kind of like the idea, but it probably won't happen just for the fun of it. Now, whilst I won't be doing the punishment for this week, I'll still have another punishment done for this video. As I mentioned before, the Prime punishment with Goat HQ that was supposed to be done a couple of weeks ago. We went into Woolies, we bought a bunch of Prime. We didn't buy the exact amount said in the comment, and you'll know in the video. That does state it in the video, but yeah. Enjoy. Alrighty, we're finally doing the Prime punishment here at Woolies. I think it was originally 30 bottles. I reduced it to 15. I'm reducing it more because I've got 2 fines they don't pay in the mail, and they don't pay themselves. Alright, what do we do? What flavours? 2 of each?
Shit anyways.
Only 2 of brown.
That's fucking shit.
Alright, get these 3. Mate, this is actually heavy. How are we going to hold them all?
It's gonna be
I need a fucking bag. I'm going to buy one now.
Right, I'm going to pay for mine now. I don't even know where my fucking wallet is. It's somewhere in my bag.
There we are, mate. No worries, mate. Have a good one.
Cheers, thank you.
They're all going to run out, though. Have a good one, mate.
mate.
Oh my god, it's prime! My favourite drink! Drink prime, everybody!
I actually think I might be going a few more upsets. I don't mind tipping the odd upset here and there. And we'll start off on the Friday between the Pies and the Lions at Marvel Stadium. Now, if the Lions win this game, or they win the next two, and the Pies obviously lose this and the next one, the Lions can actually overtake them on top spot. But I don't think the top two spot the Pies can lose. So I think I'd love to just secure the minor premiership anyways, and you probably think they do get the job done in this one. I mean, on the weekend, the Pies, they took on the Cats. They won it by 8 points, and it was a game where they sort of had to work their way into it, because I didn't think straight away off the blocks the Pies were all that impressive. They looked a little bit off the pace and looked like they were missing the Nick Dacos, a couple of key plays in that midfield. They were down by 20-odd in the first quarter, and they didn't have Darcy Moore for the rest of the game. So I thought that was going to hurt them a little bit more, especially up back, but it didn't really. I mean, I thought the Pies were actually very good in the way they controlled the game a little bit more after that. Josh Dacos had his best game. You know, plays like Ginnivan, I know he didn't kick a goal, but he was really important as a sub. Maicha kicked 5, so I thought Collingwood certainly got the game back onto their terms and played more sort of a Collingwood style of footy. And then the Lions as well. A game I didn't catch too much of, as I mentioned earlier. They play the Crows, but I actually expected the Crows to bring out the heat. It was a game sort of for Adelaide. If they would have beaten the Lions, it's pretty much a finals guarantee if they just go on to win one more game. So I thought Adelaide were pretty impressive, but the Lions just did enough to hold on, which is impressive because the Crows kicked the first three of the game and the Lions just held back momentum their way. I thought Cameron was pretty good, and I thought they were the better side probably for most of the middle of the game. It just Adelaide did start and finish pretty well. So I think this is going to be a really good game of footy. We're probably streaming it as well. The fact that it's at Marvel Stadium, that gives the advantage more towards the Lions, I feel. It's going to be a really fast-paced game of footy. I expect it to be high scoring, but I just think Brisbane's forward line right now is just a bit more potent and more threatening. So I think they can actually win it by scoring more points in a bit of a shootout. I'm going to go another upset because last week I went the Cats to beat the Pies, and I think the Pies are still probably the best side in the comp. But the Lions is sort of one of those games where I just think they can pinch it because they're pretty good at Marvel. It's not the MCG, so we're going the Lions to pinch a bit of an upset here to go 7 points. We're going to go a really close game of footy. And my big call, the Lions kick the final 2 goals of the game. Next up on the Saturday, we head to the MCG to see the Tigers face off North Melbourne now. Bit of a dead rubber game now, considering that Richmond's finals chances are basically eliminated after last week. This is sort of more of a celebration game, I feel, for the Tigers after the recent announcements of Jack Riewoldt and Trent Cotchin's retirement. I think this actually might be their final game, both of the players' final games in this one as well. So in front of home fans, you'd expect a bit of a good turnout, I feel, and you'd expect the fans and the players to want to play for the two, star retirees. Although I will have to say, though, I know it's against North, but if they do want to get the win, they need to start playing a little bit better footy because their last 2 weeks have been pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. I mean, against the Dogs, we all know how poor they started that game off. And they started poorly against the Saints. They just sort of let the Saints run freely in the midfield and were just not defensively sound. So their last 3 games have conceded pretty high scores. They probably should have conceded 100 on the weekend against St Kilda. I think against North Melbourne, they shouldn't be as threatened with the scoring possibilities of North Melbourne. I thought North, though, on the weekend were all right against Essendon. They almost did it for Ben Cunnington, but I thought Essendon just maybe had a little bit more to play for at the end. Although you could argue North should have had just as much to play for with Ben Cunnington and wanting another win to finish the year. But it's at the MCG, and even despite the 2 retirees, I think Richmond still are too good. It's at the MCG, as I said before. If it was at Marvel, genuinely with how poor Richmond have been at Marvel, it could be a North tip. But we're going Richmond to win because I think they should get the job done. And we'll go the Tigers to win it by 26 points. My big call, the Tigers win any quarter by 4 or more goals. This was supposed to be the Library game. The Gold Coast Suns take on the Blues at 2:10 p.m. at Heritage Bank. The Blues are just continuing to get results and getting the wins. And I feel like what's more impressive about it is the way they're winning. They're winning in entirely different ways and with a lot of key personnel out. They got the job done against Melbourne on the weekend, and I know that was a controversial finish. A game where I still thought at the time it was touch, but a lot of people are saying that it wasn't enough evidence. It doesn't matter. They still got the win. Mistakes are going to happen in footy games. There's always controversial finishes regardless. I still thought regardless of that, they were the better side, and that first quarter probably showed that. They had like 25 inside 50s to 4. Yeah, the Blues are looking really strong. I feel like they certainly could go on and win their next 2 games of the season, but the Suns are a side you probably don't want to take too lightly because, at Heritage Bank, they can actually be a pretty deadly side. I know their last 2 games they lost, but they were toughish opponents against the Crows and the Swans at home, and I thought they took it up to both sides at times. The Suns in the first half, I thought they were right, and they just sort of ran out of gas a little bit. They just couldn't keep up to the pace of the game. The Swans obviously having a pretty important, game to play for their final sake. It's a game that the Blues have lost before in critical stages. They're not really great away against the Suns. So, I am going to be going for a few upsets this round. I can't see, or I could say, but I'm not going to go for the Suns in this one. I'm just going to give the Blues the benefit of the doubt. Mackay might be back as well. So they're going to go 9 in a row, I think, the Blues, and win it by 23 points. My big call, though, the Suns lead at halftime against the Blues. The Saturday twilight game, we've got the Giants and the Bombers at Giants Stadium. This is a pretty key game. Probably one of the more important games this round in terms of shaping up the top 8 race, because the loser of this game, can you pretty much ride a line through their season? I think you can. Whereas the winner, well, they've got one more week to play for, which is going to be a big one the week after. Now, starting off for the Giants, they've started to lose a little bit of form after having a really good patch of wins. I think it was 7 in a row. Losing against Sydney, I thought they were respectable in the way they played, and quite honestly could have won in a lot of facets. But against Port Adelaide, Port Adelaide sort of taught them a lesson there. They did not look like they had any chance of winning it after the first quarter. But that was one of their poorer games defensively, and they had 4 Port players kick 3 or more goals as well. So just gave them too much space. I thought the Giants would be disappointed with that, but still can make finals if they can win this game. And Essendon as well, they're just sort of hanging on to that 9th position. They're sort of doing what the Saints have been doing for a bit during the year, just winning against the crap sides very unconventionally and unconvincingly. I can give them a chance at winning this one, but at Giants Stadium, as of late, especially, the Giants have been on their game, that's for sure. And the Bombers don't look like winning any games against any good sides, honestly. As much as I kind of in a way want Essendon to win, so the Collingwood v Essendon game is a bit more significant, I don't really think they're going to get the win, and I think the Giants should hold out strong convincingly by 25 points. And a big call, Whitfield and Kelly both record 30 or more disposals. Killer take on the Cats at Marvel Stadium. I am absolutely pumped, but also absolutely nervous for this one. But this is obviously the most important game for both sides all year, really. It's an elimination final for both, because the winner the winner doesn't secure a spot at finals, but I think the winner plays finals. The Saints have actually started to play some better footy in the last month, I feel. The game against North, I know that was poor. Then they moved on to Hawthorn. I thought they were just more attacking through the corridor and were a lot more just wanting to take the game on, I felt. And the game against Carlton, good for a half, dropped off. And against Richmond, we were good for 3 quarters, and we had the game won at 3-quarter time. So I just think St Kilda as of late have been playing better footy. And I'm in a way confident that we'll bring our A game and actually take it up to Geelong with a good quality game of footy. But I'm also weary of the fact that the Cats, they're not a bad side, the Cats. They're just not quite the complete package this season. And I think they'll have a couple key plays maybe coming back. I'm not too sure if Hawkins or Blixavs. But it's at Marvel, so I do give the Saints the advantage in that sense. And I think it'll be one of those games where we might be hot starters. But generally, just the fact that it's the Cats and they're always in the finals, they're going to have hunger to win this game. And I'm not confident we'll win. I think this is one of those games where we're genuinely going to choke. I know a lot of people think I'll probably tip the Saints and probably should be tipping us, but I'm actually going to go the Cats by 12. As much as I want this tip to be wrong, I just feel for some reason we're going to fuck it up in one way or another. So we're going the Cats by 12. My big call, the Saints lose after leading 3-quarter time. That would be so tragic. And the next game on the Saturday night, another really big game and shaping up the top 8. We've got Adelaide and Sydney. Now, a critical game for Adelaide, given that they just need to win this game to keep their critical spot at finals alive. And a lot of people are saying that the Crows are sort of gone with their finals chances. But people don't realise for the Crows is that they've still got a good chance of making it in, with all the results really going in their favour on the weekend, such as the Giants losing and the Dogs losing as well. And they've got a really good percentage. So they just win their next 2, and I think they probably make it. Obviously, Sydney, I think they just need to win one more game in the next 2 and they'll probably make finals. But they've also got a pretty tough 2 games as well. So I'm actually really looking forward to this game. Too bad I won't be able to watch it, but I'll be closely looking at the scores as well whilst the other game's on. I got to say, though, for Adelaide, they're pretty unlucky not to be on more points with some of the games that they've played and some of the losses they've had very narrowly to the top sides away. Not yet to Faldia. I think they probably win this game, the Crows. If they just play like they did last week against the Lions, I think at Adelaide Oval, they're normally a strong side to win the game. But what I will say is that in the last 3 games, the Swans have been the better side as of late. Whilst this is a new Adelaide outfit, the Swans are also in some really good form with 5 in a row and another good win against the Suns. But because it's at the Adelaide Oval, and I just think still the Swans can probably make finals even if they lose this, we're going the Crows, because I just think they have to win this game and they deserve to still be a final contender. So I'm going the Crows to win it by 9. My big call, Taylor Walker kicks a clutch goal in the last quarter. 3 more games to play out on the Sunday. The first one between the Dogs and the Eagles at Marvel. Now, I can't really preview this game too much. It's just a game where the Dogs just have to win and should win big. The Dogs choked again on the weekend. It's another choke for the Dogs. I think they've had 4 games where they've lost by less than a goal, and in 3 of those, at least in 3 of those, they've been games where they've started really hot and then blown away a really, really big lead or just a valuable lead. So I don't know what that is for the Dogs. Is it their mindset? Is it the fact that they think they're complacent, they think they've done enough, and they sort of allow the other sides to get back into it, and Luke Beveridge's sort of positional changes just isn't good enough? I actually have no idea what it is, but the Dogs will be very much disappointed with the way they lost that game against Hawthorn. And the West Coast Eagles will be also extremely disappointed with the way they lost against the Dockers. 17 goals in a row they conceded, which is certainly a record in the Derby. A few records were broken that Derby day. The loss for the Eagles, their biggest ever loss in the Derby. Obviously, the Dockers' biggest ever win. West Coast are just kind of embarrassing themselves at the moment. I thought they were getting a little bit better with their performances, but obviously not when you lose by over 100 against the Freo side that is still 14th on the ladder. So I'm tipping the Dogs in this one. You know, no real explanation needed. And I think the Dogs can win this one big. They are capable, but I think they'll win it by 56. I think the Eagles, they'll need a little bit more of a response. The big call on this one as well will be Jamari Ugle-Hagan kicks 6 or more goals. And at the MCG, we got Melbourne and Hawthorn. I'll probably be at this game as well with a few other creators, but I'm actually looking forward to this one as well because the Hawks are on some really good form at the moment. They've won 3 of the last 5, but the last 2, but 2 very impressive ones against some pretty quality opposition. Obviously, that Collingwood win was that superior one, but then to back it up against the Dogs when you had your backs against the wall with a 20-point deficit early on. John Newcombe with 40 touches and a goal playing his best ever game for the club, and the Hawks just did enough to get over the line. And Sam Mitchell, he'll be wrapped with the way the Hawks have performed so far this season. I think they're a very strong, or just a very good chance at pushing for finals next year if they can just continue heading in that upwards trajectory. I think they're going to have a lot of belief next year. Now, whilst it is a Melbourne home game, I don't think it really matters. The D's obviously were a bit heartbroken on the weekend against Carlton. I didn't think they played that well, but at the same time, the Blues certainly brought up the pressure to them, to be fair. And to be fair, again, with Melbourne, they really could have won that game by 2. They just didn't get on the right end of the result, unfortunately, with that, score review decision with Petrarca's goal. So for Melbourne's sake, they just need to win the next 2 games if they want to make top 2. I think if they win the next 2, they probably do make top 2. So it's a bit of a difficult equation for the D's. Hawthorn, though, with the way they've been playing, I'm really impressed, and I think the Hawks can actually have a bit of confidence heading into this game. Maybe the reason why the Hawks have been playing so confidently as of late is that they've got nothing to lose, honestly, because they can't make finals, and they're probably locked in that 16th spot. So I think this is another instance where they've got nothing to lose. Melbourne have a lot to lose. If they lose this, it's goodbye top 2 chances. I'm tipping the Hawks. I'm going to get behind them on the weekend. I genuinely want them to win because it'd be really sick to see get done again. So we're on the Hawks and the close them by 4. A big of a roughie. This is certainly my big call and my big upset of the week. But if it happens, I would be labelled a bit of a genius. And my big call, I'm going both teams to combine for 200 or more points. And then the final game of the round, we've got the Dockers and the Power at Optus Stadium. This could be an alright game, actually, with the way the Dockers have sort of been performing as of late. 3 strong performances in a row against the Cats, the Lions, and against the Eagles. I mean, a 100-point win. So I think this is one of those games where they'll give themselves every chance against the top 2 quality side of the Power, who had a really strong outing against the Giants. I thought they were very, very impressive. They probably had their best performance in a good month of footy, although it wasn't, again, a game at the Adelaide Oval. And I still think the Power at the Adelaide Oval are a superior side. They're one of the best sides and one of the most difficult sides to beat there. Probably Jason Horne-Francis had his best game, or just about one of his best games for the club all year. So yeah, I think the Power, if they can continue with a couple more wins, they'll head into finals and some good momentum. But it's not an easy one for the Power. I wouldn't take this one lightly. The Dockers at home have been pretty good, and I think they'll be very much challenging the Power. But I think the Dockers might be in front for a lot of the game, but the Power just get on top maybe late. And I'm going to tip the Power to win the game by 18. Maybe a strong last quarter. But my big call will be that the Dockers lead for longer, but lose. So those are my round 23 tips. Feel free to leave your tips down below as well. And actually, I'll go through them again quickly. So I want the Lions, the Tigers, the Blues, the Giants, the Cats, the Crows, the Dogs, the Hawks, and the Power. What total amount of tips do you think I'll be getting for this week ahead of round 23? So I'm intrigued. Will we see anyone with 9 out of 9? Yes, we do. We've gotten 24 people all recording 9 out of 9. Skipper FC with a 9 of 2. George the Pie Sporter with a 9 and a margin of 1. So I think that Hawthorn game would probably be the reason why a lot of people would have tipped 9 out of 9 there. No one in the top 10 that scored a total of 9. Oscar Tuchlan in front with 140, but it's a very tight gap between him and Saskatoon and Pasindu. And then we've got a few, well, Matt R in 139, Tex Mets, and then probably the people in 137 are the only people with still a chance. They just need to tip upsets, I feel like, if you're like behind by a few. So I'm obviously nowhere near the top whatever. I'm in 292nd though, so it could be worse out of the amount that I've got seen here. I also have a few exciting videos planned in the next week and a bit. I've got that $1 ticket, the, I don't know, $150, $200 ticket. I've also got the second part of the Guernsey creation video. I might do another neutral match day vlog. I definitely will be doing a neutral match day vlog next week for a round 24 game. So stay tuned for that. And obviously the Saints v Cats vlog, that'll be massive. So I've got content. St Kilda v Richmond vlog, go check that out as well. I'll actually leave it down below as well so you guys can watch it if you haven't already, because I thought it was a better edited video. So if you guys haven't watched it, just give it a chance. It's actually a well edited video. But anyways, I'll see you soon in the next one. Have a good one. Cheers.